Conditioning has forced us to believe that like standing loudly in our bodies and adorning ourselves is vain and vapid because that would equate to us feeling empowered. And it's more convenient for the patriarchy that you aren't empowered, or rather self-empowered, because then they have the opportunity to define what empowerment should look like for you. And they will take that definition and filter it through the lens of what it is that they want from you, so that way they can also be the source of your value. That makes you much more easier to be manipulated and to be sold things that you're supposed to feel beautiful by, to sell you images that you should abide by, and to essentially just be controlled. So it may seem like a stretch, but honestly, adornment is like radical protest against a society that prefers you muted. Okay, I hope that this is in focus. I also should have put on lip gloss, but whatever. We're coming in raw and real. Me with like electric blue eyeshadow on. I guess we'll just do this naturally. Hey guys, what is up? I hope you are well, or as well as you possibly can be, given the circumstances of existing. My name is Jasmine Kylene. I am, sorry, there's a piece of dust that is distracting me. Are all those dusties always around? Or is it just, is my household just unkept? Okay, my name is Jasmine Kylene. I'm a spiritual counselor. I'm a journalist. I'm a girl having a good time, and I'm here to talk, as I usually do. Later today, I am hosting a workshop for one of my favorite platforms, Goddess Council, and it is part 2 of the Goddess Activation series that I'm doing for them, and today's workshop is centered around adornment. So I figured, I don't know, as I've been fleshing out like the PowerPoint for it, I was like, I feel like I should probably also do a video on this topic because I feel like it's one that is really, really important. So if you haven't before watched my Goddess Activation video, I'm not sure what that video is titled, but if you haven't watched it, definitely go check it out because it has a lot of information in terms of like what it means to live as an active goddess, as an activated goddess, and to step into your like goddess power and adornment. And this is for any gender identity, of course, you know, girl, boy, non-binary, somewhere in between, honey, both, all of them, whatever you want. You have a divine feminine within you, you have a goddess that lives within you and that guides you, and it's important to live within the reality in which that energy is activated. And so part of that is adornment. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what it means to adorn your body, why it is we may be reluctant to adorn our body, and just like coming into a space where we heal that shame and feel comfortable in dressing ourselves up and living in living in alignment with our worth and like self-valuing that worth, which is hilarious because I'm literally in a robe right now, but I'm also made up. The thing is, obviously I'll eventually get to this, but like the main point about adornment is that it looks like whatever you decided to look like for you. And so that can mean you feel the most adorned when you're in a turtleneck and a bun and, you know, some winged eyeliner, and honey, that is everything. Give the kids what they want. That can look like being in this pink robe with like electric blue eyeshadow, or, you know, wearing all black, whatever the case may be. Adornment is not exactly a cemented thing, but rather the state of knowing that you are treating your body sacredly, not just physically, though that is of course the hyper focus, but also like, are you treating your body emotionally sacredly? Are you treating the body spiritually sacredly, mentally, physically, emotionally? All of those things kind of go hand in hand. So yeah. So the first thing that I would say to do if you are willing to embark on the journey of being more intentional with your body adornment would be just asking yourself, you know, what do you require of your body in order to be kind to it? Right? Is there a version of yourself that you are striving to become, you know, physically, but also mentally and emotionally, that you are sort of like waiting on in terms of saying, okay, now I have permission to love myself? Because I think that first and foremost needs to be clarified before you embark on what it means to adorn yourself, right? Because adorning yourself only really works if you already have a healthy relationship and a healthy dialogue with your vessel. So before we even get into like the fun part of adorning, right? So makeup and perfume and, you know, symbology and all of that, it's making sure that we are in a good place with where we are at in our rawest state. So before we even radically celebrate, we want to first and foremost, you know, give ourselves permission to forgive ourselves for the ways in which we haven't maybe been kind to our physical vessels. And yes, of course that means, you know, apologizing to your body, but also forgiving yourself, because you were never born into states of being angry with our bodies or anything even remotely near that. You know, all that we really required out of our bodies was simply for our bodies to be functioning, right? So being unkind to certain parts of our bodies is something that is learned, it's something that's conditioned, and that's something that is societally taught. So, take a moment to recognize the fact that, like, I'm so sorry that I've treated you wrong and that I've conditioned you to be, a version that you aren't. Or I've conditioned you to think that you are imperfect or anything less than enough because of, what I've been taught to think you're supposed to look like. And that means, and so you can embark on some mirror work, you can write a letter to a part of your body or to your body as a whole, sort of explaining, kind of where you're coming from. And also just ultimately, I think a beautiful way to really work with this is to radically love out loud the things that you have been told you were supposed to hate the most, right? So, especially just like in female identifying bodies, we are told that we are supposed to, hate our stretch marks and our hip dips and our razor bumps. Oh my God, the razor bumps. Our body hair, our fupas, loose skin, textured skin. We're told that those things are sort of taboo. So I think a way to combat that is to love them even radically louder, not only for yourself, but for the goddesses that you don't even know have their eyes on you, and also for like the past version of yourself, right? Do what you wish you would have seen as a kid, and alchemize that rage, right? I think I have a beautiful friend, Michelle, who taught me. She said something along the lines of like rage is a form of protest, and I think that is such a beautiful way of approaching it, knowing that you should feel anger and you should feel rage for growing up and existing within a society that has conditioned you to like want to hate things about yourself. And so you can alchemize that anger and channel it into something that builds something all the more greater and inclusive. And the effort of healing your relationship with your body, you can begin by, incorporating your body into your every single day. So starting your day with a body scan, before you, after you wake up, before you get on social media or you start consuming, first and foremost, just asking your body like, hey girl, where are you at right now? And the more you start this dialogue, the easier it'll get. So now within 10 seconds of waking up, I will know like, oh, we're having that kind of day, or like, oh, we're having that kind of day, right? So ask your body like, hey, what are we feeling? Is there any physical space that we're holding emotional tension, bringing your awareness there, not judging, just observing, and, supporting yourself, giving yourself affirmation, and, asking your body, hey, do you need movement today? Do you need rest today? Do you need isolation? Do you need affection? What is it that you need today? And moving with that. Also, a beautiful way to mend your relationship with your body is to do something ritualistic in the morning when you first wake up. So either doing some stretching, doing some yoga. I like to do naked dancing. So like if I have pajamas on, if I am not already sleeping naked, I will take off my clothes, and within the first 10 minutes of my day, I will play my sacral chakra playlist, and I will just dance. And I will dance, and I mean, we're not doing like full like TikTok choreography, nothing, child, but like whatever is intuitively coming through, I express it. And it's a beautiful way to sort of like let your body lead the day and sort of cement the energy that it wants to release. And utilize that empty stomach that you have, right? Pray over whatever liquid you're about to consume, whether the first thing that you drink in the morning is water or tea or like celery juice, whatever it is, sort of like set an intention over it, speak an affirmation into it, and utilize the fact that your vessel is empty and it's the first thing going in, and liquid being like the most powerful conduit. Just kind of like speak something sacred into your body. It'll really connect you to your goddess activation. And be intentional with your self-care routine. If that means starting your morning earlier or even ending your night earlier, making sure that your self-care routine is not something that is rushed through, but rather something that is like fully experienced and an intimate moment with self. And also incorporating something that is sacral and ritualistic into it, like dry brushing or gua sha or jade rolling or whatever the case may be. Finding tools that connect you not only to your ancestors, right? Because these are things that have been done for like centuries now, but also just like doing something that has some sort of like regular basis will really connect you to what it means to like pamper your body with intention. Speaking gratitude to your body as you're doing your routine, finding a certain affirmation that you want to repeat, and just making sure that like that time spent is something that is really intentional, right? So like lighting candles, playing music, making sure that the time you spend in your bathroom doing your morning or your nighttime routine is for you. And also it's worth noting that like if you're in a space where you're doing your makeup, not rushing through that either. I feel like I found myself always like, okay, I have 15 minutes, I'm just gonna put on my makeup and go. And that was never how makeup was approached in ancient times with the goddesses that came before us. It was something that was very ritualistic, very, treated presently and sacredly. So now whenever I do my makeup, I make the effort to see it as if I am painting a masterpiece and approach it with that intentionality. So, make sure ain't nobody rushing you, but also don't leave nobody waiting, so start early enough. But like, make sure that you're feeling every part of the process, that you are slow with it, slowing down in any way that you possibly can. And yeah, when it comes to adornment, I mean, the thing is, we have access to so many different tools and ways that we can, you know, beautify our vessels. And, you know, for example, the goddesses of ancient Egypt, and I'll probably use them as an example a lot throughout this video, because out of all like the ancestral goddess societies that came before us, I think they were the most self-liberated, especially when it came to beauty, because honestly they saw beauty as holiness, right? The closer that they were to God, the more that they beautified their vessels, because they saw God reflected within themselves. So it was really important that beauty was upheld. I'll read this from the workshop, but it says, despite their limited resources, goddesses of ancient Egypt managed to adorn themselves in fabulous ways. They colored their nails, their palms, and their hair with the pigment of henna leaves. And they decorated their hair and bodies in exotic jewelry made of precious stones, gold, and beads. Here's the kicker. They enhanced their facial features with black coal and green eye paint made of malachite. Let me show you some goddamn malachite, y'all. This is malachite, okay? This shit is expensive, okay? Like, I spent money on this, and it is a stone that I work with whenever I am calling in like financial abundance into my life. And so to know that like for example, if I was given the opportunity to sort of like grind this into some sort of powder and put it on my face, I would have been like, no, that would be wasting the precious malachite. And for these goddesses to have used that on a regular basis to adorn their bodies, it essentially means that they saw themselves as their greatest form of currency. They saw themselves as money, and that is exactly what it means to adorn your body, to see yourself as money, to see yourself as valuable, and to take action alongside that truth. It was never, ever, ever considered vain or vapid to prioritize and pour intention into accentuating your best features and being proud and bold with your features. And that is something that I really, really, really want to cement in. Conditioning has forced us to believe that like standing loudly in our bodies and adorning ourselves is vain and vapid, because that would equate to us feeling empowered. And it's more convenient for the patriarchy that you aren't empowered, or rather self-empowered, because then they have the opportunity to define what empowerment should look like for you. And they will take that definition and filter it through the lens of what it is that they want from you, so that way they can also be the source of your value. That makes you much more easier to be manipulated and to be sold things that you're supposed to feel beautiful by, to sell you images that you should abide by, and to essentially just be controlled. So it may seem like a stretch, but honestly, adornment is like radical protest against a society that prefers you muted, insecure, so that you are more easily manipulated and sold. So if there's any part of you that ever feels like vain or vapid, or like, you know, adorning yourself is a waste of time, or, you know, because mind you, adornment does not in any way equate to the belief that you aren't already perfect and enough in your raw and natural state. In fact, if you aren't in a space where you feel comfortable with who you are in your raw and natural state, adornment is not going to do anything for you. You need to make sure that you are in a space where you are healed from the shame of what your body and your face and your mind looks like when there is no fabric cloaking it, right? Which is why we do the mirror work, the affirmation work, the body work, this unlearning of shame. We do all of that work so that we are comfortable who we are in our raw and natural states, so that we can step into a place of sort of putting our beauty in bold lettering, right? So adornment is not mean that we're not perfect already and enough already in our natural states, but rather that we see so much worth and so much value in our real estate, in the fact that we are a luxury item, that we want to sort of present it in a way that is the most polished. It means that you find your worth at such a high caliber that you see the value and upkeep. So adorning your temple, it looks like finding your signature scent, right? If there's a flower or a smell, a citrus fruit that brings you to a place where you feel the most embodied, whether within your femininity or your masculinity or whatever juxtaposition you are, you know, being called to embody, wearing that scent continually, finding what your power color is, your power metal, your power element, and also finding your goddess statement piece, right? So whether that's, you know, for me, I'm always wearing some sort of like loud earring. I always have these two necklaces on. They're really important to me. This is like Leor Alexandra's goddess one, and then this is Mother Mary, because we love her. There's a hair in it though. I'm gonna take that out. It's not coming out. Oh my God. It's these nails. Yes. Okay. being intentional with the colors that you wear on your nails or even your hair, your clothing. Also, of course, I'm all about the rings. So these are part of like my goddess statement pieces, and the waist beads that I'm wearing. I'm gonna pull them up so you can see them. These are tiger's eye and these are chakra ones. But yeah, so just finding a statement piece that you wear regularly and interweaving that into your symbology, right? If there are certain flowers, certain things that, you know, just represent you and have been interwoven into your journey thus far, incorporate that into the way that you show up in the world. You know, Goddess Yemaya was known by, you know, certain numbers. She was known by, you know, conch shells and pearls and white flowers, and those were really deeply interwoven. Silver as well, and they were really deeply interwoven into the way that she showed up in the world physically. So right, so finding these things that represent you and making sure that there is intention poured into the way that you physically adorn your body in relation to like your internal identity. And before you leave the house, you know, ask yourself, am I representing the most authentic version of myself? Am I wearing my true identity? Have I put in the effort that I deserve? What does what I am embodying say about me? Is my posture proud? Am I reflecting a season that I've outgrown? Am I doing anything that is not actually for me? You know, a goddess does not mute herself. She doesn't abide by conditioning. She doesn't compete or you know, pour any of her value in competition or, you know, just anything outside of knowing that she doesn't need to take up space that takes away from another, but rather that she is her own space, right? Does that make sense? And yeah, just showing up as loudly as you possibly can. And showing up loudly means that you can also simultaneously be to some degree muted, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be so colorful and so, you know, I guess like physically boisterous if that doesn't resonate with your true identity, right? Like I said, wear a turtleneck, you know, be modest if that's what it is that you feel the most empowered by. It's more so like you are showing up loudly if you are showing up authentically. So making sure that you filter the decisions that you make regarding your physical adornment, but also your like mental and emotional and spiritual adornment. If those are filtered through the lens of like, this is what I really want, this is my true identity, this is me authentically, and this is an accurate reflection of who I am, then go off. But if there's any part of you that's either making yourself smaller or consequently also because of the fact that we want to become this like one-dimensional view of what it means to be like a sexually liberated person, if you're making yourself louder to fit that when you know that there's something much more reserved and introverted about you, just live in your truth and feel brave enough to live in your truth and combat and challenge the beliefs that have made you question your own truth. Because when it comes to like sexual liberation, for example, I feel like obviously I talk a lot about in the workshop, and I'll probably talk in this video too about what it means to be sexually liberated and to, you know, sort of unlearn the shame that comes with feeling like I want to have sex, and maybe I want to have sex in unconventional manners, right? That means that I want to have it polyamorously, or, you know, with the same gender, with different genders, with multiple genders, right? Whatever that looks like, just know that living a sexually liberated life means that you're living in alignment with what your truth is sexually. So don't let this patriarchy, the same one that has already tried to disempower you, force you to believe that sexuality is something that it's not, right? Because it can be loud and it can be hyper, but it can also be quiet and awkward and muted and sweet, right? It is whatever you need it to be. Just make sure that you feel safe and comfortable and loud enough to live in alignment with what your sexual truth and your sexual identity is. Because for instance, I thought that living a sexually liberated truth meant that I needed to be really, really, really hypersexualized and really loud in my sexual identity. And I realized that like, I wear mine a little bit differently. That isn't to say that I'm not sensual and sexual, but like it is something that is like more personally tailored to me instead of like what I assumed it was relative to like the media I was consuming. So yeah, your sexuality, it can be loud in a turtleneck, it can be loud in a beanie, it can be loud in sweats, it can be loud in lingerie. It just, you give yourself the permission to live your truth. When it came to the Egyptians and the Egyptian goddesses, you know, ancient texts show that like they were just really, 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 you know, sex was not something that was just for procreation or within monogamous relationships, right? It was something that was entertainment and pleasure, and it was, you know, there was stories of adultery and homosexuality and masturbation, right? Even like seeing that as something that is sacred, just as sacred as partnered sex, right? Not my earring falling off. So finding the safety and knowing that like you deserve foreplay, even if it's just you. You deserve to feel your body and feel safe within your body and feel like your body deserves pleasure in whatever form it comes in, right? Really, first and foremost, putting pleasure at the forefront of your every single day, whether that comes with meals and, you know, whatever sensory stimulation you need when it comes to pleasure, making sure that that is at the forefront. So explore, you know, what pleasure looks like for you, especially in relation to your Venus and Mars sign. I'll put a little chart that I made here. I'll probably also share this on Instagram, but this is a little chart that I made in terms of like what your Venus and Mars signs say about how you experience pleasure, but like ultimately just making sure that like you feel comfortable within your throat chakra to voice to yourself and to others how you experience pleasure and how you need it to be interwoven into your every single day. And if you feel like you really want to embark in this journey of adornment, of course, like I said at the top of the video, writing a letter to your body, which will typically include some form of apology for the way in which you may have been hypercritical of it. But also you can write this like sacred templated letter that I will also leave the template for here, just to kind of like get yourself internally in a place where you are at peace with the journey you've had with your body and where you want that journey to go moving forward. And yeah. And know that this is a roller coaster, right? You don't just wake up and decide like I love my body and it'll be great every single day. It's not about always feeling confident in your body or embodied at all, but rather knowing that you are worth the committed effort to bringing yourself to that space and knowing that these are important tools you can incorporate. You know, now I do like my ritualistic dance every morning and every night. I do mirror work every single day, and there are days when I feel so sexy and I'm excited to do it, and there are days when I'm like, I'm so bloated, I'm so disgusting, I cannot stand the way my body is showing up right now, but I love her enough to continue trying. I love myself enough to be willing to work at it. And yeah. There's a lot more information from this workshop that I could share, but I don't know how much time I have on this SD card, and I don't want this video to be too long, so definitely check out the replay of the workshop because it'll be done by the time this is uploaded on Goddess Council, or you can always sign up for a one-on-one with me. We can do some goddess work together, but otherwise, just live in alignment with your truth. Live out loud. Know that you deserve to feel good. You deserve to show off how good you feel internally, and you're a work of art. You're a masterpiece. You know, you are art, and your body is your canvas, and it deserves colors and nourishment internally, externally, lotions, colors, like just you know what you gotta do. So I love you. Feel free to check out any of my other content. Feel free to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, all of those things. And yeah, I'll see you next time.